What we're really doing in these guided inquiries is kind of a guided self-facilitating. So if you're in a session with a private session with a facilitator and we were talking about whatever it is we're looking at, you would be saying, this is what I'm seeing, or this is what I'm feeling. I would be asking specific questions for your own experience. And when we're doing these group guided inquiries, we don't do that. What's happening then is basically I'm kind of suggesting, if you're seeing images or words, then you could either do the tapping on them or put them in a frame and take your eyes around the space on the outside. If you're feeling sensation, then I'll drop in the questions to look at, what does it feel like? How would you describe it? What's the space around it? All of that. Kind of a half and half thing where I do some of the suggestions and then you do the actual inquiry yourself. So self-facilitating is very much the same process. So one of the options could be to find a practice that I already have recorded on YouTube that deals with the issue that you're looking at. So if you're looking at social anxiety, there's ones for that. If you're looking at, I don't know, there's all kinds of them that of specific things we've done. And then just listen to the recording. And then as you want to spend more time with something, just put it on pause, spend more time with whatever it is, and then just start it again. One of the advantages of having either a recording or having someone there with you individually, even just with the recording though, is it helps to keep us on track. So what I found self-facilitating is two things. One is if it's really intense or traumatic, it doesn't feel as safe to do it on my own as it does to do it with somebody there. So those are the ones that I want to have someone there doing a facilitation with me. And some of you I've talked about, and some of you probably not. I did at least once a week sessions for about 2.5 years, and then every 2 weeks another year, and I just really cleared out a lot of the trauma. And I also did a couple of weeks with Scott Kilby at the Kilby Center. 1 year a week, and then the next year a week. And then I felt like I'd come to a point where I could facilitate myself on most things. And then if something was kind of triggered, then I'd sit with somebody and be facilitated. So that was my process. And it doesn't mean that that's going to be the same for everybody else. But I just had a lot of things that I needed to clear out through my body and through the sensation and energy in my body. And after about 6 months, I was feeling like, well, I'm pretty good here. I don't really feel like I need to see her every week still. And then I kept seeing her every week because I just had this sense that every time I'd go, I'd think, yeah, I'm good. And then we'd get into something and it would just kind of peel off another layer. And so I probably could have done that on my own as well. But I just, we get into a relationship with someone and we get into the experience of feeling safe with them. And so that's what happened with me is I just started feeling really safe and I knew that that was what I was there for. I was ready, I'd come for it, and then all this stuff would just start to kind of come up. But also it's good for us to integrate the inquiry into our own lives and our own experience. And then to know that we have that as an option, a private facilitation as an option. If something big's coming up and we need it, then we can always go back to that. These morning practices, especially the ones where we're doing inquiry, I guess maybe I'll back up for a minute. So the morning practices I see as two streams kind of. One is the inquiry stream where we'll look at something specific, and the other is just the general relaxation, breathing, getting to know our mind, getting to know our thoughts. And that really helps to down regulate our nervous system. And so when we've had trauma and what's driving anxiety, ruminating, all of those kinds of thought patterns and stress, something underlying, some kind of trauma or hurt that underlies our wanting to get away, it underlines all those patterns. And we can have these kind of things where, like I mentioned yesterday, I was kind of a little hooked around all the noise in the building. It's been going on for months. They keep saying it's going to be over soon. And I said last night, I heard that it's going to be over by the end of the week. So I hope that that'll be true. But just how we get into these things that I can see it. And I used to be so caught up on this is what should happen. This is the fair thing that should happen. And I'm paying my rent and I shouldn't have to put up with that noise. And so I could just see it wasn't as strong as it used to be, but it was certainly there. And it's because I've been dealing with this noise for 3 months now. So over time, it kind of really wears on us. So I can self-facilitate, and I have many times facilitated myself around the noise, how it feels unfair, how it feels intrusive. So there's so many different elements to this, and it's so good to tune in and see, why am I reacting in this way? It could be somebody cuts you off in traffic. Why do I get so mad when they cut me off in traffic? Well, there's probably some kind of a deficiency story operating in the background. One person I worked with just said, "It feels like nobody values me. They don't even care enough to put their signal light on or wait their turn." The driver is doing their own thing. It has nothing to do with us, but we react. And so this process of peeling away these layers of reaction is so helpful. And self-facilitating things like that can be helpful too, or doing a guided practice. So I just wanted to say that if you're doing self-facilitation, there's a bunch of ways that you could do it. One is sometimes people will write down whatever it is. I hate getting cut off in traffic, so you'd write the words down on a piece of paper and you'd look at them, and then you could start just tuning in like we always do. Look at the words, feel the sensations, and then just let the words come up and the pictures come up out of the sensation. So we're not trying to figure it out. We're just trying to sit with the sensation and with the experience and the words and see what comes next. And by doing that, we're seeing the Velcro effect. So what comes up is going to be what's Velcro to the sensation. And so that's how we start to release it. We go, oh, okay. And then we start looking at that. We look to see if you could ask any of the three questions, but mostly we would ask, is there something threatening about that picture? Is there something uncomfortable? All of that. We can get to see what the associations are, what's driving the intensity of things. We have the tools we're all very familiar with, either tapping or tracing. Usually one of those works better for us than the other one. So try them both out and just see. The key with tapping is to transfer your attention to the sensation and the sound of the tapping as soon as you start to tap. And the key with tracing is to put the frame around it. You can do it with your eyes open or closed. Put the frame around it and then transfer your attention to the empty space. Take your eyes around clockwise a few times, then counterclockwise. And then with sensations, it's to notice the qualities of the sensation. If you have an image, you would look at the image. It's to notice the space around the sensation as well, and to do what we do in all of the practices here. So all of the self-facilitation tools are the same thing that we do here. The other way that I often do it is I'll just open up my Zoom session or my camera on my computer and I'll facilitate myself kind of. There's something about having a face there that helps me to stay focused. So if I'm just sitting on the couch and I have my eyes closed and I'm self facilitating, I'm much more likely to drift off into some train of thought. And if I'm sitting there looking at myself and going, is that picture uncomfortable somehow? Or, okay, what's going on with that sensation in my body? The questions are pretty simple. We all know what the questions are. We're looking at words and images and sensations. Those are the three elements. And the three questions are, is that me? Is there a threat? Or is there a compulsion to do something? And I've got those on my website. So I just wanted to bring that forward that, when you're going between sessions or if you're not doing sessions right now, private sessions, self facilitating is a really easy thing to do in some ways. And it's really effective. And then to save facilitations for when you really need it. I find it's easier for me to look at myself than to write it down, but other people find it's easier to write it down. So I would just try them both and see. You could also write it down and look at yourself. And some people even will take, what they write it down and then put it up kind of on the camera so they can see it. So people do all kinds of things. The main thing is to stay focused and not to kind of get off into a train of thought about something else. And our minds are very adept at escaping from what we don't want to look at. And so that's a big part of what happens. It's just that there's something uncomfortable about it and we're just like, whoa, here we are over there. So, we still have to kind of be vigilant about that. But I do find that something like that helps to keep our attention more anchored. And the other thing I would say is that lots of times we'll put pressure on ourselves and think, well, I know this practice. I've done this so many times or I've been trained in it. I should be able to do it myself. That's universally, people are able to do it sometimes. And then for the big stuff, it doesn't usually work so well to self facilitate it. And so just not give yourself a hard time. If something's kind of intense, it's usually helpful to either do a guided practice or to meet with somebody.